And welcome to lesson 9.3, day 2. Today we're going to talk more about the equation of our circle, which you will see is at the top of this page. Now, first of all, we want to be able to determine is a point located on our circle. So if we look at the given example here, for number 1a, they're giving us a point 2, 5. And what's going to happen is if this point is on our circle, it will satisfy it so that if we plug in 2 for x and 5 for y, it will make the left-hand side of our equation equal the right-hand side, aka 9. That means it would be a point on our circle. If we plug in that point and it does not, then no, it is not. So we're going to plug this in. 2 minus 2 quantity squared. Plug in 2 for x, and then we're going to plug in 5 for y, and we're going to see, does that in fact equal 9? So we just take our calculators and type it in as is. 2 minus 2 quantity squared, 5 minus 2 quantity squared. Does this equal 9? It does indeed. So we would say, yes, this is on the circle. We check out that second point. You can also double check for this particular problem is 3, 0 on that equation of a circle. So we have 3 minus 1, x minus 1 quantity squared plus 0 plus 2 quantity squared, and we're checking out, is this 16? So we, again, are going to just type in 3 minus 1 quantity squared plus 0 plus 2 quantity squared. This time it equals 8, not 16. So this one would be a no. Now, oftentimes you're going to see they give you a graph. You don't have to use the graph. But if we go back to what we were talking about yesterday, and we check these out, our center for this first one is at 2, 2. And if our radius squared is 9, our R value would just be 1, 2, 3 all the way around. And what we notice is this given point of 2, 5 is one of the points that's on our circle, right? 2, 5, 2, 5 is right here, right? That is one of those points on the circle. So you can kind of confirm, oh yeah, that makes sense. In the second example, our circle is at 1, negative 2 is the center. And then R squared is 16. So the square root 1, 2, 3, 4. If we look around at these points and we connect, this time that point 3, 0 is inside of our circle. So that makes sense that this one was a no. Okay, you don't often have to graph to test. You could just plug in, for this you try, I plug in this x, y, and determine yes or no, is that point on the circle. All right, now when we are writing the equations of our circles, we talked a lot about being able to have the center and the radius. Well, sometimes you are given the center and a point on the circle, and it's going to be up to you to plug in, similar to what we did up above, your x and your y point on the circle to find what that r squared value is. Okay, so let's try a couple examples of these. Okay, so in example 2a, they are giving us the center of the circle. So we know if we start plugging in to our equation of a circle formula, right? We have x minus h quantity squared, y minus k. So we have this time that h is negative 4, k is 2. The problem is they gave us a point on the circle, x, y. They did not give us the value of the radius. So what we're going to do is, in order to simplify this, we're going to plug in for x and y those values that they gave us, and simplify, because now we have 3 plus 4 quantity squared, and then we have negative 7 minus 2 quantity squared. And again, if we just type this in, 3 plus 4 squared plus negative 7 minus 2 squared, we get 130, which is the value of that radius squared, right? This is our r squared value that we can now plug in up here. Now be careful, your final answer on these should always be the standard equation without x and y plugged in, right? We want just h and k and that newly found r squared value is our final answer. So another example similar to that, again, they are giving us our h and our k value. So again, standard equation of our circle, x minus h, y minus k equals that r squared value that we don't currently know. So what we could do is we plug in h and k, so 12 and -2. And since they did not give us the value of our r, we can plug in x and y to help us find that r squared value. So x this time is 5, -9 then is going to be our y value. So we're going to type in 5 minus 12 quantity squared plus -9 minus -2. And as we type this one in, you should get a value of 98 for your r squared value. Our final answer then, x minus 12, so x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k, which again was plus 2, equals that r squared value of 98. All right, try this last example on your own. Again, you are finding the center and you have the point on the circle. What is your final equation? Now, another type of problem, all right, we are going to be given is when we are dealing with the endpoints of our diameter. So for instance, the endpoints like B and A of our diameter going across our circle. Reminder, diameters always cut through the center of our circle. So if we are given the endpoints of our diameter and we need the center point, we can take the average, aka the midpoint of those two values, to ultimately find what our center value is. So again, they're giving you essentially x comma y and x comma y, 2 points on your circle, right? Both of those are located on our circle. And then we can find the midpoint, aka the center, by adding up our two x values, 3 and 15, dividing that value by 2, and then doing the same thing with our y values, 8 and 14, dividing that value by 2. So 3 plus 15 is 18. 8 plus 14 is 22. And when we divide both of those, we get 9, 11 as our center point. Same idea in our second example. If we're looking for the endpoints of looking for the center, again, we're going to add up our two x values, divide that by 2, add up our two y values, divide that by 2. So in this case, we have 11, but minus 1 because we're adding a negative number. So that's just 10. 3 minus 7, because it's 3 plus -7, is -4. And our final answer then ends up being 5, -2. Now, this process is important because we need that center point in order to write the equation of our circle. So in example 4, if we look at the endpoints of the diameter, again, we need to start off by finding our center point. Okay, so our center, again, is going to come from taking our x and our y values, adding them up, and dividing by 2. So -5 plus 3 divided by 2. And then the same thing with our two y values, -16 plus 16 divided by 2. Well, -5 plus 3 is -2, and then -2 divided by 2 is -1. -16, but plus 16 is 0, divided by 2 is still just 0. Okay? So what this does for us is this gives us our center point, our h comma k, that we can then start plugging in to our equation of our circle, right? X minus h quantity squared, y minus 0 quantity squared, and we know that then that will equal our r squared. So very similar to what we were doing up above here, we need to plug in an x and a y to help us find that r squared since we weren't given one. Now you have two options here. You can either use -5, -16, or you can use 3, 16 as your x and y. You have 2 points on the circle, so you could pick whatever one you like better. I'm going to choose 3 and 16. Okay. So again, if I'm typing this in the calculator, it's 3 plus 1, quantity squared, plus 16 minus 0, quantity squared. This time 4 squared plus 16 squared gives me an r squared value of 272. Now, a reminder, our final answer here needs to be in that standard equation format. So we would take x plus 1, quantity squared, plus y minus 0, which we could also just call y squared, equals 272. One more example like that. Okay, again, we see 2x values given as well as 2y values. And in order to start this off, again, we need to start with our center point. That's going to be found by taking those 2x values, adding them up, dividing by 2, and finding our 2y values, the k value, from adding those negative numbers, dividing by 2. So -11 minus 5 is -16, divided by 8, or 2 is -8. And then -3 minus 1 more is -4, divided by 2 is -2. So this is our center point, h comma k. And again, we can start this process off by plugging in our values of h and k. Now notice on both of these, we have minus and negative, so that changes this to a plus sign because of the minus and negative. Now again, up above, you have two options for what you could plug in. You could either plug in -11, -3, or -5, -1. Either one you want to plug in. I'm going to choose this time to plug in -11, -3 for my x and my y. So again, as I plug this in, -11 plus 8 squared plus -3 plus 2 squared gives me an output value, my r squared value of 10. And my final answer then is going to be my equation rewritten with h and k plugged in and that r squared value plugged in. All right, the last page has an example for you to try with the endpoints of the diameter. First, find the center, then plug in to find your r squared in your overall equation. Thanks everyone for watching. Work more with these in class.